The Jags went down to NOLA. Trevor Lawrence had some demons to excise. Could the Jags follow up their win over my Colts by crushing the inconsistent Saints of 2023?
Chargers, Chiefs. Herbert, Mahomes. Will this game live up to the hype that the quarterbacks carry?
Tua's headed to Philly to square off with a wounded Jalen Hurts. Maybe not literally, but especially after that Jets loss. Will points fly and sparks follow in this Sunday night showdown between two of the top teams in the NFL?
And as we close out with the 49ers in Minnesota, everybody wonders, will CMC make the trip?
All that and more as Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee previews the action of Week 7.
Oh, nutmeg. Guess what week it is? Week 7. And here we are again. Bunch of fun and excitement. How you doing this week, sir?
I'm good. And I thought you were going somewhere a little different with that because 7 is one of my favorite numbers because it's my birthday. But it's actually your birthday weekend.
Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is, sir. This old man's just kicking along. But here to talk about Week 7, the excellence that will be.
I thought you were going to drop a get off my lawn on me.
No, not yet. I don't care about my lawn just yet. I got a couple of years before I hit that mark. But care about my AstroTurf.
That's right. No torn Achilles here.
No, get these guys grass. I'm all about pro grass all the way.
Now, there's a few better football birthday presents to gift you on a birthday weekend than a loss by the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, man. Thank you, Jacksonville. You atoned for last week. You atoned.
Yes.
Yeah, this was entertaining to say the least. Really didn't go the way I thought it was going to go that final quarter, but it was a good game. Finally, Amazon gets something good.
Yeah. And the weird part about this game is it had a lot of different avenues as far as the direction the game went. Jacksonville got off hot out of the gate, and despite 2 turnovers, Travis Etienne found the end zone a couple times, and they're looking like they're just going to run away with this game. Turnovers be damned. But the Saints just hung around, and the Jags, like the Jags tend to do, they kind of let their foot off the gas pedal and let teams hang around instead of just throttling them down into the dirt.
Yeah, it's really weird. It just seems like Jacksonville starts out first. They start out great. So you're like, okay, this is the game where, it's a complete game. You're thinking it's going to be a 60-minute game. They're just going to play from beginning to end, ready to go. Get up a couple scores, and then it's like, all right, what do we do now? Like, well, I guess we still keep playing. I don't know. I guess they're waiting for people to quit out or something like it's Madden. All right, we quit. Just leave the game. And like you said, the Saints barely hung around. It was a rough hangout, but they hung around. And then that fourth quarter hit, and it got quite entertaining.
I thought you were going to say waiting for players to quit out, like Deshaun Watson.
Oh, he just doesn't play. That's Deshaun. He just doesn't play for whatever
That's
reason.
true. You have to play to quit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like there was that sequence of 3 plays where, the Saints go down and score. And I'm like, oh man, maybe something's clicked with this team. And here's the start of the run this season. Nope. As in Saints fashion this year, they just screw the pooch and Jacksonville escapes with a win.
What do you think went wrong as far as the Saints not being able to close out this comeback?
I don't know what's wrong with this team. I'm surprised, Carr was able to get up and walk off the field. He took some hits tonight. I think he's hurt a little more than he let on. They were talking about a groin at one point. He was like on all fours. At one point, he was holding his arm. And the guy's tough as can be. I give the guy credit, but it just seems like they're just not on the same page. Because as you watch this game, there are multiple times where he's like yelling at receivers. They're not either finishing the routes or they're just not on the same page. So I don't know what's going on there. Like, do they have different playbooks? They're just not. They don't know the plays. What's going on? You had that one where like Kamara's out in the flat and is just running straight down the field, and he was supposed to come back, I'm thinking, and Carr just lets it rip and it bounces like 5 yards in front of Kamara, and he's just yelling at him. It was just a real confusing game for the Saints. I don't know what's going on.
I was thinking of the one where he was screaming at Olave, who just decides to slow up before his route gets going. And it's so
he
animated.
Just stopped.
He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
But did you see like Olave's body language after the fact? He was kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done. Whatever. like their body language does not speak of Saints teams of old, where they kind of carried themselves and they just had that fire. Drew Brees was there, and you could just kind of see it in him too. He was just like watching this go on, and it was like, what is this? This isn't what I left.
Yeah.
Like their defense still has some fire and some juice, but that defense is getting older. That defense probably doesn't have much time left. Let's be realistic. But that offense is just in disarray. They don't know what's going on. Individually, there's talent on this team, but as a group, I don't know what's going on. I'm not complaining. As our other teams in the NFC South,
Yeah.
we thank you, Jacksonville. But the Saints need to figure it out quick. They're 3-3, so it's not the worst, it's not the best, but there's some confusion in that offense, and they've got to figure this out.
Yeah, and their record's a good point because you're saying like their body language doesn't speak well to the Saints teams of old that were very prideful, but their body language doesn't even speak to the Saints team of now that is right in the thick of things for a division that was really up for grabs and kind of still is.
I don't know. Like they were talking about their schedule coming up, and their schedule was pretty favorable. But if they can't get this offense together, or at least somewhat cohesive, I don't care what your schedule is. You're gonna end up with a losing record this year. So they've got to get Carr healthy and just go back to square one, watch some film, and just get this handled. It's not good so far. It's in New Orleans.
How do you think what do you think now of Jacksonville after 3 straight games, three very productive games, even this despite maybe some issues here and there, they're starting to round into the Jacksonville team we thought they probably were at the beginning of the season. They had that big win over Buffalo overseas. I mean, they whooped up Atlanta, but everyone whoops up Atlanta despite the start they had.
True.
So they had that big win where they kept Buffalo at bay. And then of course they had the win last week that we saw in person where the Colts were full of piss and vinegar, and everyone thought like, okay, maybe the Colts are in it, don't sleep on them. And Jacksonville quickly dispensed them. And now this went over New Orleans where they got out hot to trot, got the big lead. New Orleans clawed their way back in, and they held their poise and held them off towards the end of the fourth quarter.
They are Jekyll and Hyde still. They can't put 4 quarters together, it seems. They for the most part start out solid and then they disappear for a good chunk of the game, and then they come back, and luckily they've been able to pull the games out and win. But they need to play a consistent 4 quarters on the offensive side. Their defense holds steady. I'm pretty impressed with their defense. Those guys, they're young, they're fast. They seem to play well and play a pretty decent overall game. But that offense is so sporadic. There was Calvin Ridley was barely in this game.
Very just
I don't, so I think it's They need to really kind of figure out consistency. They need to learn that when they've got a team down, they've got to score. They've got to put their foot on their necks, end it early. And until they can do that, they're still going to lag behind, the elite teams in the league. They'll be a very good team. They're not going to be an elite team.
All right, now that's the game you most recently watched. So let's talk about the top 3 games of the weekend, as we always do. The first one, this one's interesting. Lions at Ravens. So the Ravens, we've been kind of dumping on them a lot this year. Lamar's been very inconsistent. The defense hasn't really looked like the Ravens defense of old. And and the Lions have gone back into this with the 2 losses from Philly and San Francisco last week. There's a logjam of 5-1 atop the NFC. So is there any kind of, now, if there was any kind of sliver of hope for the Ravens in this game, I guess it would be the fact that Gibbs is likely coming back, might have a little bit of a pitch count, limited participant this week in practice, and David Montgomery did not practice towards the end of the week. So is that enough for the Ravens to have some hope that maybe Lamar can get it going in this game, or is Detroit just going to roll?
Well, we've seen this season that nothing is guaranteed in week to week. So Laporte is also banged up a bit. Secondary seems a little rough, but the Lions are, for the most part intact. Banged up but intact. That's what happens in the season. You get guys banged up, but they keep trooping through. The Ravens, you never know. Like, let's be realistic. If they can come up with a plan defensively to kind of keep the wide receivers at bay, they've got a shot. Detroit really lives off the running backs. Let's be realistic. Montgomery's a banger. He's played incredibly this year. I don't think we've seen enough of Gibbs. I think Gibbs has been kind of held back. And if he does go, he very well may be the, featured back this week. So is this going to be more of a pass first offense? You're basically putting the hands in Goff's. You put the game in Goff's hands. Let's be realistic here. And he hasn't really had to do that this year with the run game being as strong as it's been. The pressure hasn't been there. This very well could be the first game where he's really got to carry the offense. So, and the Ravens maybe are due for a big game. Maybe they actually, get the ball around the yard. Everyone seems to be healthy somewhat. So it could be a trap game for them, So I think the Lions, if they stick to what they do, should be able to win this game. But I don't count the Ravens out totally because, it is Lamar, Guys got skill.
Yeah. And Lamar, we've seen like really just one game, I think, where he really just went off and had well over 100 yards rushing. I think he really has been trying to pass, but being the way he historically plays, and he probably will not necessarily stop doing that as the season progresses with all the injuries they've had to deal with, is his style of play something to neutralize Aiden Hutchinson and that Lions front, defensive front?
It could, because you have to be ready for him to just shoot out of the pocket and run. This probably is really the first quarterback this year that they've really dealt with that's a running type quarterback. It's a situation where, Lamar, does almost like a jab step, and then he'll either throw it quick or he'll take off. So these guys are really going to have to be made aware, to know their surroundings, because Lamar will take off at any time. And if he does, and 5-6 yards here and there keeps the clock moving, if they can get the pass offense going, it might be some trouble for them.
What do you how much longer do you think it's going to take for Jameson Williams to really become a featured target in that offense? He did find the end zone, I think, last week. He's got he's 2 weeks in off his suspension. How long do you think it's going to take for Goff to get comfortable with him and turn him into a real weapon?
I don't think long at all. For him to score last week, and he seemed like he understood the playbook. He didn't seem out of sorts. I think with where they drafted him, he's a talent. So I think it's going to be a situation where they're going to put him put him in spots to succeed. I don't think they're going to rush him. But then it becomes an issue of you have a log jam at wide receiver because they've got quality wide receivers throughout that roster.
Mm.
So is it a situation where, another week or so they're like, well, maybe somebody's expendable and someone goes calling for, a trade at the trade deadline looking for a receiver. So there's only so many balls to go around.
Yeah, because
so I think
it's Reynolds who's really been Goff's security blanket this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, is an animal.
And you got Laporta, who's shown that he can catch and be effective on effective offensive weapon. So the question is someone going to be okay and fine not getting as many touches as they did before? There's only so many balls to go around, and right now they really don't throw to the back really that much. That's what Gibbs is. I feel he's more of their receiving back, and Montgomery is their, north and south runner. So something's going to give. Right now they're all young. They're all trying to figure it out. So, it's that, team first mentality. That's great. But there may be a point where Detroit says, hey, we might be able to, move somebody and improve some other, other spots on the squad.
Yeah. I shouldn't forget the tight end because Sam Laporta, I don't think it's going to take too long before he's an all-pro.
Yeah, no one thought that he was gonna, sit there and be a good chunk of the offense, but he's really surprised me, and he's a viable weapon. So they're all young, so they're all under those nice, friendly, rookie contracts and such, so they don't have to press too much. But there's going to be a point of, what do we do? Someone's going to get upset. Do we trade? As it happens in the league. So we'll find out, but I think it'll be a good game. We'll see if Lamar can pull something out of the hat.
Yeah. And speaking of viable weapons, our next top game to go over is between the two teams we figured would be at the top of the AFC West this season. And it's not looking quite as clear cut as we thought it would be, but Kansas City's still on top. The Chargers have had a little bit of a rough go. And the Chargers are coming off this Dallas game last Monday where they really struggled, and whether it was Herbert missing his guys or his guys dropping the passes, it really they didn't look like this high-powered offense. And now Kansas City, I mean, we've talked a lot this season about the different weapons and options that Patrick Mahomes has to get used to, and so people don't load up on Travis. aka Taylor Swift's favorite boy toy.
Jesus.
So Rashee Rice is starting to become more and more Patrick's second favorite target behind the aforementioned Travis Kelce. So as far as this game's concerned, do you foresee it being the shootout that we think it probably on paper should have been all along? Or is the Chargers going to have a little bit more of a struggle in this one?
I don't know. Let's see. Last week, the Chargers should have won that game. Let's be honest. A couple of missed throws by Herbert, and that game is totally different. Let's be honest. I don't know if the Chargers just aren't gelling, if there's issues. I don't know. This team is full of talent, but just can't get it right. They do totally remind me of the Chargers of old, where they were great in the season, then come playoff time, just totally fall apart. Except this team falls apart during the season and somehow makes it into the playoffs and, wins a game or something. And you're like, ooh, the Chargers are back, and then they just fall flat on their face. This game, yeah, I'm saying this now when it could end up being a 34-31, offensive explosion. The Chiefs did get back Nicole Hartman, from the Jets this week. So he's familiar with that offense. So he very well could step in and become the number 2 behind Travis. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Patrick will trust him more than those other guys. Let's be honest. The Chiefs' offense has been sporadic. You mentioned Rice and all that, but like when you watch him play, it just seems like Rice is there, like just is randomly there and just gets the ball. Like there's no clear-cut flow to that offense. It's Travis and then everybody else. Sprinkle in some, Pachenko, and here you go. But because teams still can't figure out how to handle Travis, and they let Patrick run for 15-yard first downs, because nobody covers them. The same thing every week.
And
The
don't forget your
Chargers.
favorite, Kadarius Toney.
Oh yeah, Mister. My 2 catches a game. One will be a touchdown. The other one will be like a 4-yard loss. Yay him. Whatever. The Chargers. This almost feels like a must-win for them. Like it really does, because they should have won the Dallas game. In watching that game, they should have won that. And now, this was the team that was supposed to challenge the Chiefs. This division was supposed to be incredible. All the teams nearly were. People were saying, "Oh, 10 wins." What's gonna. Who's gonna be the odd man out of this division? And now this division's just blah.
Yeah.
The Chiefs who 5-1, but muddling through, don't look like the Chiefs of old. And it just seems like they've lucked out each game since that loss to Detroit. It seems like they're just playing teams that just can't finish the job. I honestly sure as heck don't think the Chargers can. I think it'll be entertaining, but I think it'll just be one of those things where Mahomes pulls it out, and we'll go on a whole another week of yay, Taylor was there, woo, whoop-de-doo, and all that other stuff, But the Chargers need this game. They have to win this game.
Yeah, it's scary that we'll get to Vegas in a little bit, but that the Raiders have kind of had a lot more consistencies this season than the Chargers.
Yeah, they're consistently mediocre.
Yeah.
And the Chargers exactly. Like if you look at what the Chargers were week 1 to what they are now,
two different teams.
Two different teams. I know you've had injuries and stuff, but still there's enough talent on both sides of that ball to where you should be somewhat competitive, and they just seem out of sorts.
Yeah. Now, last point on this game before we move on, Eckler came back after missing a few games, or two games to injury and their bye week. Did you see enough out of him in the Dallas game to think like, okay, maybe he's back, or maybe they were pitch counting him a little bit and he'd probably be better in this game?
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of Eckler at the beginning of the game, and then it seems like they kind of got away from him a little bit. It was a little sporadic. I could understand that. You're bringing him back. You want to make sure he's good to go. But if you don't trust Kelly as the number 2, then you got to figure something out.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna run Eckler into the ground again. But it just, minus all that, it was just Herbert missing throws. He had 2 or 3 great throws that Allen was wide open, could have went for scores, and he just missed them. So they can't run Eckler into the ground, so they're gonna have to make sure that the back Kelly's either got it, or trade deadline's coming up. See if you can pick somebody up who can spell some relief consistently.
Yeah. Our third top game, and what a dandy this is.
Yeah, it is.
Unfortunately, the Eagles have to be coming off of a loss. They couldn't just take care of business against the Jets. But now they face another AFC East opponent, and it is the sparkling offensive juggernaut that is the Miami Dolphins this season. The game is in Philly, so Philly's back home. Not that they had much of a travel to go to Northern Jersey, but so the Phillies at home, Miami comes in. They've just been smoking people, blowing the doors off. I mean, they got off to the slow start against Carolina, but they eventually rallied and still wound up winning by a significant margin. So the Phillies' strength on their defense is their front, which obviously Miami, Achan's still out, but Mostert's been incredible. Eventually, at some point, Jeff Wilson's probably going to be back. But Miami's strength obviously is the pass game. Waddle, Tyreek. If Claypool actually ever does anything, and Tua's been picking apart defenses left and right. Now, that not being the strength of Philly's defense, their defensive backfield, are we expecting a great game and maybe be a little disappointed because Tua's gonna have a field day back there?
Oh no, man. I love games like this, man. I need to see the 35, 40 points. Throw it up.
Fantasy Bonanza.
Yeah, but then you know what? I say this, and then it'll be a 13-7, snooze fest. It'll be a kick. Yeah, your kicker will get your points. That's about it.
Yeah, it'll look like
No, I
that Bills game.
Oh man, yeah, please. This game's interesting because I think Philly is going to want to come out and prove that the Jets' loss was an anomaly, that it was just a bad game.
Yeah.
I think Miami's like, wow, you lost to the Jets, and they're giggling at home, going, oh, okay, whatever. This is going to be nice.
Yeah, we're gonna take you seriously.
Yeah, but there's both teams have great wide receivers. I like Miami's run game. Well, if Achan wasn't hurt, I would give Miami the nod at running back. So right now, I think it's a toss up. Swift has played great, for sure this year for the Eagles. So I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks and who makes the mistake first, who makes that first serious mistake. Now, if you want to sit there and really look at the quarterbacks, your money's on Jalen to mess this up early, to mess it up. Hasn't played Jalen Hurts ball. Let's be realistic. He seems out of sorts. We've talked about this. That offense doesn't seem like it's crisp, fluid, especially from the mistakes at the end of the Jets game. Let's be realistic. Those throws shouldn't have been made. And Tua's standing upright. I guess his karate teacher there or whatever, learning how to fall and all. Man's living life, crisp passing, throwing up numbers like nobody's business. So I think the pressure's on Jalen to try to play a really clean game, not mess up. Miami's defense, I think, is a bend but don't break kind of defense. Like, they're good, but they'll give up the yards. They'll give up some yards.
They gave up 20 points to Carolina.
Yeah,
Carolina can't block us.
So I think it just comes down to the quarterbacks and who plays a cleaner game. But yeah, they're good. I think it's gonna be in high 20s easy.
Yeah, just an extra point on the comparison between the backfields is Miami's backfield is almost what Philly wants their backfield to be. I mean, I think right now it's probably just Swift being a lead dog, but when you think about Swift plus Gainwell plus Rashad Penny, like they went into this season with a three-headed monster, and Miami really didn't, but Miami wound up with a two-headed monster or a three-headed monster if Jeff Wilson's ever back. So it's almost like Philly's got this backfield that didn't quite work out. Now they're looking at this Miami team like, oh, that's what we wanted to do.
It was like Philly's backfield was like a backfield built on potential. Because everybody knew that Rashad Penny's got skills, he just can't stay healthy. Let's be realistic. He gets on a roll, then he gets hurt. At this point, he should play for the Ravens. He's one of those backs where a couple games in, he's looking great, looking strong. You're like, okay, here he goes. And then he gets hurt and he's out for like half the year. Gainwell's a nice little, give him 5 or 7, carries a game or whatever. But I think if they had kept Miles Sanders or were able to, I think this backfield would more resemble what Miami's is. Maybe a little more pass eccentric, not banging, north and south, but I think would fit their style of offense. So the Eagles need the rest of those guys to be healthy because if Swift goes down, that run game's in some trouble.
Do you think maybe that's what Jalen's missing? He's missing a bit of a short game because Goddard really hasn't been the Goddard we know he is, and the running game hasn't been that much of a factor in the past game.
It could be, but it's weird because just watching him in the pocket hurts. He just seems very just like he can't make a decision almost. It's kind of like, okay, I want to go here. No, let me just throw it. It just something isn't right. And Goddard looked like he's been open. It doesn't look like teams are doubling him or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. This offense just seems a little off. AJ Brown's still putting up quality numbers, like he's getting the ball and such. It just seems the short game, like you said, just seems off, and they need that short game because you can't be all or nothing because you're not going to win. You will not win in the league that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Devontae Smith get a couple more balls thrown his way. He started
Yeah.
off the season really hot, but the last few weeks he's been kind of invisible.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't exist, and he's a very nice piece. Like, get him the ball, but we don't make those calls. We just watch it.
Anyway, we've got a few more topics to touch on in a little segment we like to call extra points.
It's good.
Get your kicking boot on, Bucks
That's
McGee.
it.
The first one we're gonna actually start. We're gonna actually do the extra points this week as a bit of an injury recap and a couple. And the first one, of course, was the one that made fantasy owners take a collective gasping for breath last week. Christian McCaffrey wound up exiting that loss to Cleveland very early. Had an oblique injury. Historically, obliques, as I was reading, typically guys will miss 1 to 2 weeks and then it'll linger for a little bit. But it turns out that fate is shining a little bright on Mr. McCaffrey, and he's at least a game time decision for Monday's tilt against the Vikings in Minnesota. So this is almost a situation to me where we could say, like, if there was a game to just like give him a week off and let him sit, because they've obviously been running him into the ground so far. They've been using him a ton. If there was ever a week to just give him a break, this would probably be it. Minnesota's obviously been inconsistent, up and down, struggling a little bit. And Jordan Mason, who played a lot at the end of the Dallas game because they were up by so much and then had to play last week in injury relief. He had almost 70 yards against the Cowboys. He had almost 30 yards in short time against Cleveland, and he scored a touchdown in each game. So he's proven that he's capable, a worthy backup. Is this maybe a situation where you just say, okay, even if CMC is healthy, just let him sit?
Yeah, like I think you've got enough where you could win this and you need to sit him, then you do. I don't see why not. Same thing with Debo. If Debo's not feeling 100% yet from that game, still kind of off, then yeah, go ahead and give him a rest. I think you've got enough pieces. You got Ayuk, you got you got that offensive line, you got everything going for you. You've got guys that can fill in. So why push it? And if you push him against Minnesota and something happens, takes a hit the wrong way, and ends up being out 2 to 4 weeks, then there's an issue. And then it's going to be the questions, why did you play him? You didn't need to. It's Minnesota. They're just hodgepodge a mess. Like, it just seems like their offense can't get it together.
Especially without Jay Jettis.
Yeah, it seems like without Jay Jettis, that offense is just missing. It just has nothing. You've got, these guys. You've got Osborne, Madsen, who isn't really doing anything. So Kurt's throwing the ball like 50 times, and, they're barely scoring. So rest them. Let them take the rest. I think you've got some backups who can, fill in, by committee. You're good. Throw the ball to Kittle a couple more times. He's shown up offensively this year.
Talk about a boomer bust fantasy player.
I'm telling you, 1 week he'll catch like 3 balls for 12 yards and that's it, but he'll block great. Unfortunately, you don't get points for blocks, but then the next following week he catches 4 balls, 3 touchdowns, living life. So I say rest him. I think you guys should be able to handle Minnesota. But
yeah, I feel like, and it's one thing when the backup has to play in a situation where he's unexpected to play, but if you can actually just get him starters carries during the week and have him ready to take on a full load, that's almost obviously a better situation than having, all right, guess what? You have to play more now.
Yeah, he didn't show up, at the game. Oh, by the way, we're starting you today, You've got the script, you're scripting probably the first 10 to 20 plays. He knows what it's going to be. Just get him comfortable during the week, like you said, and let him do his thing. Their offensive line is solid. They've got that defense. So that defense is, I'm pretty sure, going to probably get a couple turnovers. Just, be smart about it. You know, if CMC is telling you, yeah, he wants to go, but you get this gut feeling that he's not right, then you tell him he sits and that's it. You're the coach. You make that call, not him. It's long term. You're thinking long term.
Do you think, touching on the other side of this, Kirk Cousins recently said that he's not going to waive his no trade clause. He's not going to go anywhere. With Brock Purdy looking like he's been fine coming off of injury, and with the Jets, Zach Wilson looking a little bit more stable in recent weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
and with the potential tantalizing figure that Aaron Rodgers is potentially being ahead of schedule on his recovery. Do you think there's just no place now for Cousins to get traded? And he's just maybe he's just giving up on getting out of there this season. Uh, it doesn't without those two teams, without the option of those two teams, it looks bleak that there'd be someplace better for him to land.
Yeah, I don't think there's anywhere else for him to go. And he was straight to the point. He said he loves it in Minnesota. He wants to. He's going to finish the year there, and that's what it is. So I think, especially with those comments, a team would be very leery to even attempt to ask, because let's say he has no trade clause. So if it's a no, then it's no. And then if a team asks and it gets out into the press, which it always does, then you cause issues in the team. Because now this quarterback that you said, oh yeah, we're going to work with you, and he finds out you're sniffing around Minnesota trying to see if Kurt's available. At this point, Minnesota's fine with, keeping Kurt till the end. If he's not going to, budge on this no trade, then you're pretty much out of luck, and you're going to lose a quarterback and not get anything in return, because that's what it looks like right now.
The next game to touch on, and our next extra point, there's been a lot of rookie running backs that have played very well, or if not rookies, very young running backs that have played well. One of this next one is a rookie, Zach Evans. He is going to have to fill in for Kyren Williams this week at home for the Rams against Pittsburgh. Now, these two teams, Pittsburgh 3-2, Rams are 3-3. Rams are at 500, a lot better than we thought they would be, despite despite an awful, putrid offensive line. But in spite of that, Kyren still is having a Pro Bowl worthy type of season. He's going to miss the next two games due to injury from that previous victory they had, and they now host the Steelers. Steelers have been up and down all season. Very much definition of inconsistent. They kind of got away with one beating the Ravens. So with this rookie in place with Kyren missing time, do we see any kind of losing momentum by either team, or is this a chance for Pittsburgh to get back into it? Maybe take opportunity of a potential Ravens loss and put themselves back in the driver's seat for the division?
The Steelers got to figure out what's going on. They can't run the ball. Like, let's be realistic. Najee Harris has disappeared. Najee Harris is non-existent. Anyone who has him on fantasy, I'm sorry. I feel your pain. I think I've got him on two teams myself. He has done nothing.
Squatoosh.
Exactly. So at that point, you've basically told Kenny Pickett that you've got to be the guy to carry it all. And outside of Pickens, there's really nothing there. They've got some injuries wide receiver wise. I think Deontay Johnson's coming back, I think, this week from injury. But it's just that offense is sporadic. I don't know what you're going to get week to week. So if I'm the Rams, okay, fine. Williams is out, next man up. Maybe just keep that back in the backfield, and you let Stafford sling it. He's got enough guys who can catch the ball, so maybe you just say, you know what? Maybe we'll just run to kind of keep them honest, but if I need you to throw 30, 35, 40 times, and you hang it on that arm. I think he still's got enough in there to do it, and you see what happens. Because I wouldn't be scared of the Steelers, really.
Do the Rams have any realistic shot of getting the wild card picture this season?
Wow.
I mean, granted, on paper they might have a shot just because everyone in the NFC is 500 outside of the three at the top and Dallas.
Right. Wow. Everything would have to fall perfectly. Like I just don't know. Uh, they'd have to stay healthy the rest of the year, health wise. The defense would have to tighten up a little bit more. I'm not going to say no, but if you're asking a percentage wise, maybe 30% chance, maybe. Now, if they reel off 3 or 4 wins with Williams being out and all, then then you have to take a look and say, maybe. But the NFC is such a jumble that you can't say no.
What do you think the Cooper Cup effect is? Because he came back 2 weeks ago. Everyone still kind of got their touches. Nakua had a good game. Atwell scored. Kyron had a big game. And then last week, Nakua was kind of a forgotten man. Atwell was kind of a forgotten man. Cooper Cup went off.
There's one more guy that's been forgotten. Tyler Higbee. Let's not forget him, quality tight end, but he's vanished as well. So I think it's a situation where you got to balance it out. You had the young guys in there, and the young guys took off, and everyone was getting excited about these new guys. And then Cooper comes back, and he's the guy. There's no doubt about it. But now it's okay. We're gonna throw it all on Cooper and then sprinkle these other guys. You've got to think long term. If you got to go to somebody else and Cooper doesn't get that play in, then that's it. It's long term. You've got to think, okay, this is what we're building. Yes, Cooper is still going to probably be there for the next few years, still at a good level, but you got to get these guys the touches. And Tyler Higbee will really help in the short game as well. He's a quality tight end, so you can't just forget about these guys. So I think McVay really needs to look at this offense and say, okay, for the next couple of weeks, we don't have the run game. Hopefully the next guy up can, fill in, but we may become a little more pass happy. What do we do? And you figure it out. But even past that, once Williams comes back, you got to keep everybody somewhat involved. You got to.
Yeah, I think it would be a real shame for all these young guys to have filled in so admirably while Cup was back. And then as soon as he comes back, Stafford just gets tunnel vision.
Yep, because what's going to happen is teams are going to key on that. And once these young guys, they lose that timing and stuff like that, you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Even happens with veterans, if they're there's 3-4 games and they're not getting those touches. Practice is nice and all, but in game, you're not getting that. You're not getting those touches. So
yeah, game speed's a whole different animal.
Exactly.
The last one we're going to touch on. This one's fun because both of these teams had quarterback injuries last week. Justin Fields got banged up in his game. Jimmy G doesn't look like Jimmy G's going to play this week. The game is in Chicago, and could the Raiders go in with Hoyer the Destroyer or the rookie Aiden O'Connell?
Wow, Brian Hoyer, I'm telling you, man. The man just sticks around, bro. I give the man credit. Man just hangs out, gets rings, does his thing.
Him and Blaine Gabbert.
yeah, really. Exactly. But I'll take Hoyer any day of the week. That bald head. Honestly, like the Raiders, you're in the hunt. Let's be realistic. You're in the playoff hunt right now. No one would think you're, 3-3. You're in it. No, so yeah. I'm gonna trust Hoyer over the rookie. Like I'm gonna go with the guy, and especially with his relationship with McDaniels. It's Patriots West. That's what we've called them. So why not go with the guy who pretty much knows your system and go from there? Now the rookies, got a good arm, long, strong arm and stuff, but he doesn't know the nuances of this offense as Hoyer would. So I think you go with Hoyer. He's gonna, put you in those positions to score. Now it might be a situation where, the play that would have been a touchdown with Jimmy G may end up being a field goal. But you know what? If he's keeping the offense moving and there's opportunities for points, then you're happy with that. So no, I'm going with Hoyer.
Yeah. Jimmy and Justin Fields, he expected to play in this one?
I haven't heard anything yet. It's interesting. If he's from what you hear from him and everything like that, he'd be a guy who'd say, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'll go." But if he's your franchise guy, if you think he needs one more week, then you take that week. We all know what the Bears are. Let's be realistic here. Yeah. They're not doing anything. Now, if they're like, yeah, go ahead, whatever, then maybe it's a telltale sign that they don't care and that Caleb Williams is coming to Chicago if he decides to leave for the draft. Yeah. But no, I'm telling, you just tell freaking Fields, you know what? Let's sit this one out. Let's make sure your hand's 100%.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, this season's not going anywhere. There's no point.
They're banged up offensively, anyways. Herbert's hurt. That he's hurt in the backfield. They've got some other guys that are kind of nicked up. So just go into gears. You're not trying to lose, but you're thinking long term.
There was one player on the Raiders who made some attention this week. Devontae Adams was not totally happy with his lack of usage in the last game, and he made it known. And I kind of his comments in his press conference kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Where
sorry. They were funny, kind of.
Yeah. To me, the things he said, it makes it seem like he cares more about his own personal glory and his stats than the team winning. And the team came off of a win, off of a big win. Granted, the Patriots are very down this year, but that's your head coach's former team. It's a team that has historically had a lot of success year over year. And to come up with those comments, like, I get it. You're a star. You want the ball. You should have the ball. You're extremely talented. But it's almost if you're winning, you almost kind of have to bite your tongue there and just be like, you know what? I don't like it. Let's deal with this behind closed doors and take the win and focus on that.
Oh, no. By him saying that, I think that's the code for, you know what? Trade me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's what it is. And I get where he's coming from. Like, he was brought there, and I'm not going to 100% take his side on it, but it was almost like he was brought over under false pretenses. You brought him over to be with Carr, college roommates, right. This was the big selling point to the fan base and everything. He was happy to be there. The next thing you know, you ship his boy off, and now he's sitting there going, well, who's my QB? Didn't know for a while because they were trying to get people left and right and had to settle for Jimmy G. Well, I don't think Jimmy G was their number one choice. Let's be realistic. And this is what you had. This is what you settled on. So now he's sitting there going, okay, I got to make this work. And when you're an elite wide receiver, and let's be honest, wide receivers are divas. It's facts.
Yeah.
You want the ball. And I think he worded it wrong, but I think what he really wanted to say was, I want to earn my keep. I should be getting the ball because that's what you brought me here to do. Now if they were 5-1 and he still wasn't getting the ball, then yeah, go ahead, man. You go ahead and you preach that because, like, hey, man, maybe they didn't need me in the first place, yeah. But they've somehow got 3 wins. They're 500. I'm sure, after it was said, they went, locker room, talked it out, and, hopefully got things straightened out. But maybe the Raiders need to sit there and say, you know what? Maybe we do. If people are going to give me something good for Devontae, maybe that's what we do. Let's be realistic. They're playing for, like, this year is like what they're playing for, like, playoffs or bust this year. Let's be honest. Like, this team is not built for long term. This team was built for now.
Yeah. They kind of had to course correct with the Carr thing.
That. You also had the issue with Chandler Jones. He's gone now, so that defense has changed a bit. So they're 500. They're treading water. I think that's what they're going to end up being for the rest of the year, a 500 team. So I think maybe if you have that conversation with them, sit them down, be like, if you feel that you're not getting what you need from here, you already you shipped off Carr. Adams, you probably could pick up. You probably can get a nice young wide receiver.
Yeah.
And you just start shooting for the future. Be like, you're going to give me a first rounder for him, or two twos for him. You're going to get something for him because he is in his prime. He is probably, if Jay Jettas is number one receiver, he's 1B.
Yeah.
In the league. So you get what you can for him. Flip that in this year's draft. And there you go. Don't draft like a Robert Gallery type guy or Jamarcus Russell or anything like that, because we know where he'll end up. But be smart about it and build for the future.
We'll build for the future with us. Tune in to Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. on YouTube and Rumble, and listen to the audio podcast form a few hours earlier on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus our Monday morning quarterback wrap-up, taking through all the action of each week of the NFL season. Bucks McGee, take us off here.
Oh man, week 7. I love it, man. Just feels like we just started. Feels like it was like week 1 and it was all new and fresh, and we still have no idea what's going on. It's still a crazy hodgepodge, but that's why we love the NFL. Nutmeg, it's been great. Can't wait to talk to you after this and see what happens.